This episode is presented by Visit Cedar City Bryan Head Tourism Bureau. Discover the art of adventure at Utah's gateway to the parks. Cedar City is within a few hours' drive from 6 different national parks and monuments, and only 30 minutes from fresh snow at Bryan Head Resort. Check out visitcedarcity.com to plan your next trip. This episode is sponsored by the Cedar City Business and Innovation Center. Dedicated to supporting local businesses and entrepreneurs, it provides resources and services aimed at fostering business creation, growth, and retention. To learn more and get involved, visit innovationcenter.cc. Hello and welcome to the Explore Local podcast presented by Visit Cedar City Bryan Head in partnership with Cedar City Iron County Economic Development, produced by Dallas Smith Media, and I'm your host, David Johnson. All right, today we have Greg Harris, who is one of the new co-owners of Retro Fitness. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it, Dave.
So, tell us when did you officially buy Retro Fitness, and how long have you been, operating now?
Yeah, so it was November 19th was the official signing and everything. Almost 3 months now. So yeah.
And speaking, I don't know, pun intended here, called Retro Fitness, but you've kind of been retrofitting. You've been doing a lot of updates to the gym. So talk about what do you been doing?
We came in and I don't know, Dan and I we get motivated sometimes, I guess. And we saw the need of a couple things for sure right off the bat. The painting, it was still red and yellow, which they had the clubs like 10 years ago was all red and yellow. Kind of hurt your eyes, but so we went to the updated version, which is white and gray, which is nice. And then we're actually having some flooring done right now. We had some countertops put in this morning, countertops, sinks, faucets, mirrors, lots of new machines, lights, things like that. So a lot of stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me, what made you guys go, let's buy a gym?
So we've always liked the fitness scene. You know, we've all kind of coached together. We've all liked lifting. That's always been a passion of ours. Dan actually did the financing on Retro when it came to Cedar 10 years ago.
Really?
So
okay.
Dan's a commercial banker, and kind of knew the ins and outs of it a little bit, and knew the owner, knew Bevan, the old owner, and kind of just kept tabs. And when he saw that it was going to be available, started saying, "Hey, you want to make this happen?" So, yeah.
So that's actually a great segue. Kind of where I want to digress for a while is getting to know you more. For those that don't know you, but chances are a lot of people already know you because you are a teacher at Cedar Middle School. You've been a long time cross country and track coach at Cedar High. Talk about your day job a little bit and how that maybe translates to doing this gym as well.
We mentioned knowing a lot of people, so I actually started out at Canyon View High School.
Oh, you did? Okay.
So started coaching there back in 2006. Brian Werber was coaching out there. I was doing my student teaching. I started coaching with him, took over cross country the next year, and been coaching ever since. There was an opening at Cedar High, and I actually started teaching over at Cedar High when I got into my major area. And then it made a lot of sense. Day job I'm at Cedar Middle. Do PE and weights with 7th and 8th graders, mainly 8th graders, and then coach cross country during the fall at Cedar High. So that's kind of my day job, and then I've been fitting in this gym stuff every other time, basically. So I'll probably come back to the coaching as well as being a teacher, but I just want to kind of keep high level right now. You were also you went to SUU, right? And you studied physical education, I'm guessing. Yep.
But you were also on the SUU track and cross country team.
Track and cross country. So I came up from Southern California, moved up here in the fall of 2000. Walked on, made the cross country team.
Really? You just walked on?
Which was awesome. You know, they didn't really recruit outside of, sometimes down to Vegas, but outside of like Utah and Idaho, they didn't really recruit down to California or anything. And not that I would have gotten recruited anyways, but walked on, made the team, got to do all the traveling thing for cross country, indoor track and outdoor track. So that was a lot of fun. And then I served an LDS mission for a couple years, and then came back and competed a little bit, and then called it quits from there. So
what were your main events?
So in track indoors, I was mainly doing the 3,000.
Okay.
Occasionally a 1,500, but mainly the 3,000. And then outdoors, I was 3,000 when they had it, but mainly 5 and occasionally a 10, which was terrible. Yeah, terrible.
I'm sure some of your athletes would agree with you on.
25 laps on the track is not fun. So,
oh my gosh, yeah. And the reason for why you know, because in outdoor track it's 3,200, 1,600. So why is it different in indoor? You're talking about those different distances.
So indoor and college, the races are usually a little bit shorter. I mean, there's more laps, I guess, and so it's just a more condensed version, I guess, for lack of a better word. So,
and it's actually considered a little harder to get a better time because you're doing more circles. Essentially, you're on the curve.
Yeah, occasionally you have some bank tracks that make it a little easier, I guess.
Yeah.
To keep the times pretty much the same, but yeah, it's a little tougher indoors. So.
I think you're the third or fourth person that come on this podcast, and this is not with intention because I talk about how I'm a runner on the podcast here and there. Right. But you're like the third or fourth person that's been an SUU track and cross country.
I'm probably the slowest one, so it's all good though. Yeah, I can claim that at least. So, yeah.
So, but after college, you kept running though, and you were doing some marathons and things like that. Maybe talk a little bit about that experience.
So I stopped at SUU, stopped running anyways in 2004, ran my first marathon in 2005, and was pretty consistent with it through about 2012 or so. And that's when I kind of started going back and forth with lifting and running. And I've run a few marathons since then, but my best one was 2009.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, you got to divulge. What was your best time?
2:30.
2:30.
Yeah. Wanted to crack 2:30, but right at 2:30. So I guess it's good still.
What's the pace on that?
5:45.
Yeah, I was gonna say 5:40.
Yeah.
I was gonna say right under 6.
Yeah, that was at St. George. So it was a good one. Good day.
Mercy. Now that hurts. You talk about a 10,000.
Oh, for sure.
So then, what got you? Well, you kind of transitioned though. You went from running, and I, made the mistake of calling it bodybuilding, but you corrected me beforehand. Powerlifting, right? So, what made you go from the transition from running into powerlifting?
So I always kind of liked the weightlifting aspect of it, but when I would lift a lot in college, I'd start putting on weight. Mm-hmm. And for a distance runner, it gets a little counterproductive if you put on too much muscle, right? So I kind of had to shy away from that when I was running in college and running marathons, not lifting too much. But I always kind of had that interest, and then I started teaching weights, and so started getting a little bit more into it. And I worked with somebody that was a power lifter. He kind of talked to me a little bit about it and decided to kind of give it a go. Did a mock meet a few years back down in Hurricane, and have done a handful since then. So
describe for people that don't know, what is powerlifting? What is a mock meet? What do competitions look like? What are you doing?
Sure. So a mock meet is just something that doesn't count towards any official results. It's not part of a federation or anything like that. So mainly practice under similar settings, right? Yeah. But then powerlifting has different federations. I belong to the USPA, United States Powerlifting Association. Also the IPL, which is the international kind of parent company of that. But I picked that one because they have some meets in Utah, down in Nevada. And so you've got some opportunities to compete. And it is bench, squat, and deadlift. You get 3 attempts in each lift at the meet. And basically your total is the highest successful attempt from each lift.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Talk about, because that is so interesting. Ryan Hall, who was the American record holder in the marathon,
Right.
Scrawny guy, like
Sure.
so skinny when he was long distance running, but he also got into lifting.
He did.
After running. Talk about maybe the mindset that's similar with distance running and powerlifting, because those seem so polar opposite.
Sure. You know, I think it's just the desire to be competitive. You know, he kind of passed that era in his life where he was going to be, you know, dominant as a distance runner, and found something else that he could kind of be competitive with and still stay healthy and have that outlet. And I think it was kind of the same with me. You know, I still enjoy running. I don't enjoy running when I weigh 200 pounds, but yeah, you know, with powerlifting, it kind of gave me an outlet to be healthy, but yet be strong and feel good and be competitive as well. So yeah.
So tell us some of your stats on these powerlifting competitions.
So
and let you brag.
So in competition, my best. So they're kind of weird weights because they go by kilos. So this is the kilo conversion. So like 190 kilos would be like an odd weight in pounds. So anyways, for bench, 413, that's pounds. For squat, it's 639, and deadlift, 628. So, yeah.
That's definitely more than double your weight on the bench there.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, what's funny is when we first moved to the area, you know, because my daughters have done cross country on the team with you there. And I wanted to meet who the cross country coach was. And I asked some kid, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Coach Harris. He's really just like," and he kind of does this like muscly thing. He's like, you know, he's ripped or something, comment like that. I'm like, and in my mind, I thought, he's ripped. I'm like, that's not the typical, you know, description you get of a cross country coach.
A little out of place, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. Weightlifting, going to the gym, has benefits for anyone really.
Sure.
And it varies. You talked about how, you know, as a distance runner, you didn't want to put on too much weight.
Right.
Whereas maybe a sprinter, and I'm sticking in track here because that's my forte, I guess.
Sure.
A sprinter probably wants to put on a little more muscle.
For sure.
Because they have that quick twitch kind of thing.
Right.
A football player, depending on what position they play, are going to lift in different ways. Basketball player, etc.
Right.
But maybe there's even people that aren't into sports. They just want to hit the gym. So talk about maybe pick a couple different sports, maybe running as one, maybe like, I don't know, volleyball or football, because you work with a lot of different kids. Sure. What are different things that across the board are going to benefit you no matter what sport you're doing? And what are things that might be unique and things you want to focus on in those different areas? Because I know some of your students
you're talking about types of lifts too?
Yeah, types of lifts, things that you should work into your routine.
Sure.
Because I know with some, for example, running is a little bit more on, or distance running, you're probably talking more high reps, low weight, things like that. Or maybe there's times where you want high weight, low reps. But talk about some of that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, rep ranges are something that's a little bit commonly confused.
Yeah, that's why I want you to get into it. Yeah.
The key is you want to be able to push yourself to where you were lifting within a couple reps of failure, whether that's a 10 rep set where maybe you could have done 11 or 12, so you were close to failure, or maybe a 3 rep set where you could have done 4 and that's about it, right? And that's the key to building strength. I think there's a place for lifting heavy in all sports, even distance running.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of top collegiate programs, I've done a lot of looking into BYU's weight program for their cross country and track teams, professional runners. They are all lifting heavy. Not all the time, but at least one lift per workout, they're focusing on really pushing it. And then maybe they have some accessory lifts where they're, you know, adding a little bit of volume, but not quite as much strength stress on their body. And so I think that's important across the board. But then, you've got different movements that are beneficial for different sports. Obviously, like as a volleyball player, you're probably going to have to do some plyometrics, some different jumping drills to help with that vertical leap and things like that. With football, you're going to do some things that maybe incorporate some sprints and some things that allow you to do some more speed and explosive type movements. I think the underlying tone that could benefit all sports would be that heavy lifting, though.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, because one of the things that I think, and sorry, I keep using running as the example, that runners are horrible about is strength training. The number one injury. So I work with some professional runners, and the PT for that team talks about how the number one injury in runners is hamstring, because there's just we don't focus enough on strength training and building that hamstring to be able to respond the way it needs to respond.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I was mentioning BYU, one of their main lifts that they're incorporating a lot is Nordic curls. You know what those are, right?
Describe it though.
So somebody, you're instead of doing a sit-up, it's almost the opposite of a sit-up in a way. So you're kind of facing the ground, laying down on the ground. Somebody's holding your feet, and you're trying to pull yourself back up, just using hamstring strength, which if you've never tried it is probably going to be impossible. So there's different ways, different bands and things like that where you can kind of progress towards a full Nordic curl. But those are kind of the standard for a lot of teams. I know at SUU they use those as well as one of their strength standards. So yeah. My wife had an injury that just wasn't going away, and she had seen different people, and I told her, well, you got to talk to this PT that I know. And one thing that he gave her, and I'm forgetting what the actual name of it is, but it's like a one-legged lunge where you have one leg on like a bench or a couch or something, and you kind of lunge forward and lift up, and mixed with some of the, like what you're talking about with these Nordic curls and some other things. And it's interesting, just these little things consistently over time can help recover from injury or prevent injury. In fact, I hear people all the time, especially us middle-agers, talk about, my lower back. Sure.
And actually in running, when you experience a lot of times lower back pain, it's because your hamstrings aren't strong enough, and it's the tension that it's creating.
Sure.
So I will tell my middle-aged friends all the time, if you're having lower back pain, try stretching your hamstrings and seeing, and people all the time will be like, oh, that made a difference, because you just don't connect, because you're only connecting where the pain's at rather than where your body's trying to compensate and maybe what's causing some of that.
For sure.
So one of the things that I thought was interesting when you were talking about the various sports was you actually weren't just talking about lifting. You talked about some cardiovascular type exercises incorporated in there. So talk about those who are coming to the gym, maybe it's just your average person. They're not like doing any kind of sports or intramurals or anything. They're just trying to stay fit.
Sure.
What's good balance of the cardio and the lifting? In general, what's a good balance? And then maybe like what's some recommended schedule throughout the week if they're going maybe 3 to 4 times a week at most is what they can get.
Yeah, general fitness, I would say people that have the most success are the ones that are going to incorporate strength and cardio. And a lot of them will do it in the same workout. Now, whether they choose to do the cardio first is kind of like a warm-up for the weightlifting, or they lift and then kind of do the cardio as more of a cool down. Yeah. Either way is kind of a preference. I don't know if there's any right or wrong, but incorporating both is definitely important. So I would say, like you said, 3 to 4 times a week is kind of that sweet spot.
Yeah.
We do have some people that come 7 days a week. We have some people that come twice a day.
Once a month.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think you can overdo it and get to the point where it's a little bit counterproductive. But the people that are coming 3-4 days a week for, an hour at a time or so, and do 20 to 30 minutes of cardio, at least 30 minutes of strength training, are usually in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In fact, that's when you said the 20, 30 minutes of cardio, that's one thing I was going to say is, obviously you need to eat right. And, if you're trying to lose weight, get fit, you need to eat right, look at your calorie count. The nutrition plays a big factor. But one thing that has always been emphasized to me, and maybe you can bust this myth or add to it, but I've always been told that to be productive in gaining fitness and weight loss, you need at least a minimum of 20 minutes of cardio where you have an elevated heart rate. And I don't know maybe what you might add to that if somebody's looking to get fit and kind of shed some pounds, considering.
Yeah, it seems like the sweet spot. Yeah, I'd say 20 minutes minimum is where you kind of start seeing a lot of those fitness benefits, I guess you'd say, where you can start kind of building off that and really start seeing some progress. So yeah. I would completely agree with that. Yeah.
So at Retro, what do you guys, are you just like classic gym? Do you have classes? Do you have personal trainers? Maybe talk a little bit more about the
for sure. So
gym.
that's one of the things that we've really been trying to apply since we've taken over. Yes, we've done the cosmetic things, and that's important. And I think, people like to see that. They like to see that they're coming to a good place, that the money that they're paying is going, a good place, right? But we want to be a complete gym, like you said. So yes, we have the cardio equipment. Yes, we have the strength training equipment. So you can come in and do your workouts all by yourself, come in with a friend, do it with a friend. That's great. We have classes called Group X classes, anything from yoga to Pilates to height fitness. We've got a lot of different things. We've got fantastic instructors. I think we've got 21 different instructors right now. We've got spin classes. We also have what's called a strong room, which is more kind of like your CrossFit. We call it, functional fitness for sure. Hybrid, some people will call it, but incorporates a lot of high intensity strength type movements with some cardio as well. You'll have some rowing, some biking, some running, some different things like that. But we do have some personal training, like you said, and that's something that we've really been trying to push the last couple months. Brittany, she's our personal training manager. Okay. She's phenomenal. She actually still does a little training at Vasa as well. Okay. We're trying to steal her full time, but
don't tell Vasa.
Yeah, but I think they know. But yeah, she's hired a team under her, and the thing that's great about that is people that come to the gym and don't have a clue, or maybe just need that extra little bit of push, either on the fitness, the nutrition side to it, they can provide that and kind of get them started, or they can stay with them for a couple of years at a time if they want to. We've got a kids club, so we've got some kids classes that we're actually teaching with a couple of our instructors for some teenagers, and then we've got a spot for you to do drop off your kids while you're working out as well, some of your younger kids. So yeah, cool. It's definitely a complete thing for sure.
So do you jump in on some of these classes, see how they're going?
I have
yoga in particular.
I have glanced in. I have yet to participate. I need to, though. It's in the back of my mind, and I just need to actually make it happen. But yeah, there's like 5 different types of yoga classes.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Your classic real relaxed stuff to the stuff where you'll be sweating and probably regretting
the
going
hot
there.
yoga and things that
you got hot yoga, you got warm yoga, and you've got all sorts of different ones. So yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
For those listening, you'll have to forgive my voice. I lost it for a couple days, and it's just coming back. So if I sound like one of the teenagers that Greg here teaches or coaches, you'll know why.
Too much yelling at the meet, right?
Yeah. So in fact, I just took my daughter and a few of the track girls up to an indoor meet, and I always tend to lose my voice a little bit there. They had a coach's run, and so I ran that, and I don't know, I just did myself in, I think, in my old age.
So. 5:22. I mean, you told me earlier, 5:22. That's impressive.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Good start. So I have a goal, and I don't know if I should say this on the podcast, but I will. I have a goal to run a 450 mile before I turn 45, or at least while I'm in the age of 45.
So 450, not even 459, huh?
No, not even 459. I just want a 450
Impressive.
flat. If I get in the 450s, I'm sure I'll be happy.
Okay.
Break the 5, but I want to go straight 450.
Okay.
So that was a little test to see where I was at, because right now I'm training for the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's see where my mile's at right now. And I went up with the girls, and that was a ton of fun. So.
And what was the winner in that race?
The winner, young buck, 419.
Oof, wow.
Yeah, he ran college. I'm forgetting his name.
Wow.
The top two won the coaches / parents race.
Impressive.
And everything. Yeah.
Impressive,
Yeah. I don't think I'll be getting down there. I always joke that I'm the Uncle Rico of running. I wonder what I could have done if coach would have just put me in.
Yeah. Now you're making a good run at it now, though.
Yeah,
So.
trying at least. These short legs are getting me along fast. So, speaking of which, so what were some of your top times in college running the mile?
In college, so mile, I like I said, I ran the 1500 a couple times. I think I was around 410, which is
and the conversion's like a 430.
Yeah, right around 430.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the best. And let's see, 5,000, I was 1520. Yeah, 1520. So nothing crazy impressive. I wasn't running 13 something or anything,
Was the 1520 on track?
On the track, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about cross country? Because they have weird distances.
So
in college.
cross country they run an 8K.
Yeah, and the women run a 6K, right?
Yeah, they run a 6K, and then the guys run a 10K for their championship races.
Oh, that's right.
So
yeah.
So yeah, it's a big transition from high school. High school you're 3 miles or 5K and jumping all the way up to 8K and 10K. So it's definitely a tough thing. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, to get those miles in.
For sure.
But a balance. I actually liked what you were saying earlier. And I don't know, I think we were just talking about the gym in general. Yeah, you were about burnout.
Yeah.
That's the thing is a lot of people, and maybe that's where like trainers really come into play.
Sure.
Is a lot of people when they want to get fit, whether it's for a specific sport or in general, they experience burnout because they go all in and they're go, and then they're just burnt out from it. They just don't have the energy to keep going.
Right.
What's your advice to people in general to not experience that burnout because consistency really in fitness is what's key. So what's your advice on being consistent and not burning yourself out?
So I think you have to have a balance. I always worry about the people you see. Like I said, I see certain people in the gym twice a day, every day. Or they might be there for 3 hours.
Wow.
And it can be kind of a social thing. They might be there with their friends talking and everything. So that's one thing. But I think you have to have a balance in everything. And that's what I tell a lot of the high school athletes too. Like, do I want you to have cross country as a priority? Sure. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad when you're doing choir or band or you're involved in a different sport or you're involved with your church, or you've got good family relationships, you have a job, things like that. I think that makes you a more complete person and doesn't spread you too thin in just one thing and hopefully keeps you enjoying it for years to come. So
yeah. I always worry about that too. Nowadays, no knock on parents that are really intense with their kids from a young age. Maybe that actually kind of sounded like a knock. Sorry, I don't mean it that way, but right. I see parents sometimes that they're so intense with their kids from a very young age, and they focus in on only maybe one thing.
Sure.
And I worry about the kids sometimes, and sometimes occasionally, and I mean occasionally, you'll get a kid that goes on that kind of intense track that is exceptional, goes on to college pro. But really 9 times out of 10, I see so many kids just get burnt out from doing that one thing. In fact, my second oldest daughter, who is running cross country, she was doing competition gymnastics since she was really little. She loved it. Mm-hmm. And as she kept getting more and more up, I kept finding she basically, not that she wasn't allowed, but she didn't have time for trying out for the play, for trying out for cross country, for just doing some other basic things. In fact, before we ended up moving where she was doing competition gymnastics, and the next year she was going to have to start leaving school early every day and doing some homeschool stuff. And I thought, this is getting too much. I just want her to enjoy, because I could see like she was sad. She loved gymnastics. She'll talk about still how much she misses it.
Right.
But she didn't have the opportunity to see these other talents. And where we had moved after that, she tried running and she's like, oh, I'm pretty good at running. And I think a lot of that came from the strength that she built in gymnastics and stuff, but then she could try the school play, choir, all those things that you're talking about.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think parents kind of get that in their heads. They want their kid to be really good at basketball, so they play basketball year round. Nothing wrong with basketball, but if you look at a lot of professional basketball players, they were also all-state in football or baseball, right? They were pretty well-rounded. We, on the track and cross-country team, we've had a lot of kids, specifically like in track, that come from a lot of different backgrounds, right? And, some kids that didn't know anything about track until their freshman or even sophomore year in high school. Yeah. They come out, they're a great athlete in basketball. And we had some that ended up, earning a scholarship in track and going on and having great success in college, So I think it's good to always be open and be willing to try some different things, because you never know where the opportunities might be. So
yeah, actually, a friend of mine who was the BYU recruiter before the COVID stuff happened. He helped start this professional running team here in Utah, where we have multiple professional runners, and then Slick, Salt Lake Community College, for those that don't know, recruited him to start a cross-country program. He won nationals 2 years in a row, and then he was recruited off to a D1 university out in California. But when my second oldest daughter we started finding that she was getting pretty good in cross-country. Him and I were chatting. He messaged me, and he's like, man, she had some great times here. And him and I were chatting, and he said, Dave, the one thing I'll tell you is make sure she is having fun. Yeah. Don't let her get so honed in that it psychs her out or that she's not having fun. Keep her balanced, because if she's having fun now and she's succeeding, then when she's old enough to go run in college, then that's where she'll have the real success, Sure. And I love that mentality, because here's a guy that coaches these top tier athletes, works with the now American record holder in the marathon and half marathon, Connor Mance. He works with Connor Mance all the time. Right. He knows these pro athletes, and he sees the balance. Sure. Now, when you get to the pro level, that is all you do. Like Connor Mance, for example, he doesn't go skiing or dirt biking or things like that. Right. But when you're growing up, you got to have that kind of focus, and that's kind of a random digression on the running, because you're right though. I mean, you do see those top tier high school athletes that have their best success their senior year, but like you said, there's so much pressure, so much burnout and everything. They go on to college and you never hear from them again. They're doing really well in college, and same thing, no success as a pro, or they don't even go on to run professionally because there's been some burnout there. So they just get
something to it. Yeah,
they get so burned out, and it's finding that sweet. I almost look at it like in an analogous kind of way, like you said about strength training. You know kind of where your limit is, and you do the amount of reps up to that point to help build you to that point. Sure. But if you can't bench 180, but you're always trying to bench 180, and you don't do anything that builds you up to 180, well, you might get it a couple times, but you're not really building the strength behind that. Exactly. And so that's what's key. And so similarly, translating that kind of back to just the general person, like going to the gym. Like if you're going to the gym and you're trying to get fit, I think that's what happens with these people that set a goal to lose 20 pounds at the new year and have a New Year's resolution. I mean, we all know it's been going on for 100 years. People set these New Year's resolutions. They come in, you get this big rush, and then it all just, people put out. Right. So creating that balance, consistency matters more than almost this high burst of quantity. Sure. Anyways, I don't know if you have random thoughts kind of about that too.
No, I agree. And you're right. You do see the most people in January at the gym, and even smaller than that, you see the most people on Monday, and then it kind of fades throughout the week. Yeah. By Friday, you don't see very many people. But our goal is to keep that gym packed all year. We don't want it fading away, and it's still pretty good crowd there, so it's good.
Yeah. So okay, I want to go off on another random digression. You guys, with some of the social media stuff you've been doing, has just been cracking me up. So, what was one name a couple of the funny, quirky little videos you did? You did one where you're like doing pull-ups or something. So we had the TENS unit on. It was supposed to simulate what a female feels on her period with some cramps and stuff. So that was fun. Dan's good. He's got a good personality for it. So he was the one with the Pilates. I'm sure you saw that one. So our social media
media manager, Talisa, is fantastic. She comes to us with ideas weekly.
Yeah.
And so she's filmed stuff with us and our trainers and our front desk workers and everything. So I think people have been enjoying that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
The tens unit thing cracked me up because Dan and James, they were like dying, and then you went and you could tell you were feeling the pain, but you like got done. You're like, I am woman, basically, No, just kidding. But, it gives you, I like that because it's like the women, like I think my wife or one of my daughters was like, why don't you try that? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like I admire you guys for what you go through.
No, it has been a lot of fun though.
Yeah, that's funny. So with the branding and everything, are you part of, because you mentioned the yellow and the red, are there other retro fitnesses outside of
there are. So I don't know exactly what attracted Bevan to retro when he came here in 2016 to start it, but that's who he chose, and they allowed him to open up the location here in Cedar. But there's close to 200 locations. There are about 10 in Texas.
Okay.
There's a couple dozen down in Florida, and then the majority of them are up in like New York and New Jersey.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I didn't realize that it was, maybe I'm naive, I didn't realize it was part of like a chain.
Yeah.
And so you guys not only bought the business, but you bought the rights or licensing, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we kind of had to re-up with the franchise, and it has its pros and cons for sure, but mainly pros. I mean, they've helped us out a ton with things, and as new owners, it's good that we have the help that we do with corporate for sure.
Guiding through that.
Oh, definitely.
So talk to those listening about, especially those that maybe have small businesses or things. What are some, so far you've been in it 3 months now. What are, and that's usually where a lot of lessons are learned, but talk about maybe lessons learned already along the way that you feel comfortable in sharing.
Sure. There's always going to be more to do than what you had planned on. Like I'll go into a week, it'll be Monday or maybe even Sunday. And my wife will be like, what does your week look like? I have no idea. I've got this appointment and this appointment. Everything else, it was just going to happen that day probably. I'll go throughout the day and I'll think that I'm going to be at the gym for a couple hours and I end up there, for 6 hours, right? People just need to talk. Some meetings need to get set. Something breaks, we need to fix it.
Yeah.
We think of some more projects or some ways to improve the gym, and it just kind of happens like that. So I know business owners can definitely relate to that. There's never really a time where you're relaxing. There's always something to be done. We've made it past our grand reopening, but we're still doing renovations. We're still, trying to improve different things. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to divulge any numbers here, but talk about you're looking to buy a business and you probably have to get a loan, and go through some of the business license and some of these steps. How talk that through a little bit, and kind of maybe with some of those steps or in learning on that.
That's where Dan really came in handy. He's a commercial loan officer, so he had a lot of connections, a lot of knowledge with that already. And even with his knowledge, it was a process. I mean, it took 2 full months of just meeting every type of requirement that there was, both with the building, with the franchise, with the business itself. Just so many steps.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to the finish line, November 19th, we were just like, oh my gosh, are we finally done? And then the real work begins. But it's a lot of work.
So talk about doing a business with partners. A lot of times different partners will fulfill different kind of roles. And obviously, I'm guessing Dan's kind of more in the finance world, but maybe what are some of your different roles that you guys do?
He is. So I kind of handle a lot of the day-to-day stuff, and I've handled a lot of the renovations and everything. So that's kind of been my role. James has been nice enough to jump in wherever we need him.
Yeah.
He still has a day job like we do as well. He teaches and coaches. And then, like you said, Dan does a lot of the financial stuff. The thing that's great about Dan is the relationships that he has as well. If we need some money, we need a loan, something like that, he knows where to find it, And so to have those types of relationships from other, times in his job have been nice to have. So,
that's one thing with business a lot of times that I find ones that are successful is knowing who to partner with,
Right.
whether they're a business partner or they're like a resource partner in the community.
Right.
Knowing who to partner with can really determine your success as a business.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the promotional side and kind of building the clientele. Have you seen an increase since you guys bought it from the numbers?
Yeah. So kind of just to go back for a second though, like you said, knowing who to partner with. I mean, we had coached together for like 10 years.
Oh, that's true.
When I came over to Cedar, James became the head track coach. Dan and I were a couple of his assistants, and then in cross country, those two were my assistants. So year round, pretty much we were coaching, and we never really had any arguments, not a lot of disagreements. We gave each other a hard time, make fun of each other and stuff, but that's about it. We work well together, and so we knew it would be a good fit. We weren't really concerned with it, and everything about the business is transparent. Dan, he handles finances. I have access to it. James has access to it. There's really nothing to hide. And, you hear those horror stories about businesses, But as far as the promotional stuff, so we had a great January, which was awesome. We were actually number 2 in all of the retros nationwide.
Really?
Yeah, as far as members added and value added.
Wow.
Only to Queens, New York, and they've got like 1 million people that they're pulling from.
Wow.
So to do that with 40,000 or so was pretty good.
I wonder what the square footage comparison is to their
So
gym
they've got a bigger club, but yeah, they're usually leading the way pretty much every month out of all the retros.
Yeah.
So to take second to them, we were pretty happy with that.
Awesome.
And the corporate, our corporate managers and everything like that, they were pretty impressed. Didn't expect it out of Cedar City.
Yeah.
So we have goals to be on the positive side of things every month. We want to be adding to that. And we want to be adding value, so, you have a lot of people that are like, well, why do you want to add members? It's just going to make it more crowded. Well, we want to add equipment. We want to add, different things so that everybody can enjoy it. And it's not going to be just this crowded gridlock.
Right.
I saw a Instagram post the other day. It was a gym up north and people were waiting in line to use the bench press, waiting in line to use the squat rack.
Wow.
Like lines, like 8 or 9 people deep. They were just waiting there for 30 minutes.
Wow.
To use the racks, and I don't ever want it to be like that. And I don't think it ever is like that. There are times where we have a lot of people in there, but I don't think people are waiting around to use equipment.
Well, and if it gets to that point, that's your cue to say, hey, let's open up a second.
Yeah, it's true.
Second gym.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's cool. Well, okay. One thing that I haven't digressed on is a lot of times gyms sell the word, all I can think of is creatine. Sell the nutritional stuff.
Supplements, right?
Supplements.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. And back, when we were in high school and everything, creatine was pretty much the supplement.
Sure.
And people still take that
Sure.
a lot. But a lot of people, there's pre-workout and then there's work. Anyways, there's all these things. So people go to a gym and they're like, do I really need that? And you're just trying to make a buck, a commission off of that. And that's part of having a business, but there is value to some of that. Because my brother-in-laws, they all love the gym and they take the supplements and things like that. And but talk a little bit about those supplements and what's right for and maybe we could categorize things into like the beginner, someone that's a regular gym goer, but maybe not trying to bulk, to someone that's just trying to bulk up. What should those different people kind of be looking at?
I think the king for all categories has got to be protein. So whether even if you're not a big gym goer, even if you're just a normal person, you need to be hitting that protein.
And what's the purpose of the protein?
Maintain muscle mass and recovery. But even if you're not trying to build muscle, you want to maintain that muscle mass that you have, because as you get older, that muscle mass is going to start to deteriorate, and we've got to have that for functionality. So protein's definitely up there. Creatine, like you mentioned, it's been around for decades, still up there. Up there.
Explain to people what what creatine is and what it does, what its purpose
Sure,
is?
sure. So it is found naturally in different foods like red meats and stuff like that, but it is going to help you with strength and recovery. And recently, the last few years, it's been proven that it's starting to help with like cognitive brain function, things with Alzheimer's and things like that.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, it can be effective for everybody. So I would say those two are up there. Some people like the branched chain amino acids, which are found in protein. So even if you're not wanting to have a protein shake, you could have a little bit of amino acids, which is just like a little flavored powder you could put in some water. Those are big. I mean, you could supplement like crazy. I mean, you could be taking 20, 30 different supplements if you aren't careful. But I'd say a multivitamin is definitely a good thing for anybody. We actually sell smoothies in the gym, which is nice, and you can choose what you're putting in there. We've got flavors of the month. You know, you've got the low calorie ones for ones that are trying to lose a little bit of weight, have some nutritional value, and we've got some that have over 1,000 calories. You know, that might be a good recovery shake, have a lot of protein in there as well. And so, you know, we've got something for everybody.
So describe a workout where afterwards you need a 3,000 calorie
3,000
or 1,000 calories. Sorry,
okay.
1,000 calorie protein shake. Sorry, 3,000.
You know, if you're trying to gain weight, I would say that's where that would come in.
Bulking up.
Yeah, if you're trying to bulk up a little bit, or if you're a teenager. I mean, teenagers burn calories like no other.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a male 18-year-old and you're working out, you're probably got to be consuming at least 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. And so that's just an easy way to get in some quick calories, you know, fairly easily.
What's the equilibrium though? Because I see, well, actually one thing I see a lot of athletes do is they eat, they take protein, they take all these things. And then when they're not working out as much as they used to, they actually put on a lot of weight because they're eating and consuming the way they were when they were working out a ton. So like, what's the right balance? Like if I'm working out for, you know, obviously I'm only doing a 20-minute workout and I'm an 18-year-old male, do I really need 1,000 calorie? Or are you saying, you know, if you're doing like an hour workout or 2-hour workout and strength and cardio, that's when you know, okay, 1,000 calories might be the right thing. I don't know.
Yeah, you've probably have burned 1,000 calories in that workout. You know what I mean? You know, the best way I've heard people explain it is if you are willing to take the time to track your calories, then you can see what you really need to either maintain your weight, lose weight, or gain a little bit of weight. You can find exactly that middle ground, and maybe it's 2,500 calories a day, you know, and you know, okay, if I want to lose weight, maybe I'm going to cut that to 2,200, and that's going to help me lose a pound and a half a week, or maybe I want to gain a little bit, so I'll go 2,800. The good way to not do it for most people is to say, okay, my equilibrium is 2,500, so I'm going to start eating 4,500, because then you're probably going to bulk a little bit too fast. You're probably going to put on some fat, and your body's going to have a hard time dealing with all that. So
yeah. I'm glad you that, and that's kind of what I was thinking about in the back of my head and asking that. It was really, if you really want to know, and I said this at the beginning, nutrition plays such a role in our fitness. And counting those, knowing what you're consuming or not consuming, can play such a big role. And with kids that I coach, and just quite frankly, just with my kids, I tell them all the time, some key things that are going to help you in sports is your sleep, your water, and your food. And if you don't know how much water you're consuming, food you're consuming, or how much sleep you're getting, you're probably not doing it right. And you're probably going to be more ornery, or hangry is the hip term for the last decade or whatever. On knowing how, and you got to know your body and know what you're putting, because that is your fuel. In fact, another thing I always talk about, because like I said, my brother-in-laws, they're big into the gym. One's a personal trainer, and we were just talking this last weekend about how unless you're a scrawny teenager, nobody really has a six-pack. Because when you're relaxed and you're not working out, I always call it my 1-pack, you know. But if you're hitting the gym and you're working out, or you just ran 6 miles, well, yeah, maybe you might see your 6-pack for all of the 30 minutes after that workout. But after that, like, few people really have, even the most fit of people that I know, have this like chiseled look that the movies put out there.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I don't know if you have thoughts kind of about people trying to have realistic expectations, I guess.
Yeah, and some people are genetically inclined as well. Some people are just blessed genetically, and they're gonna get stronger, and they're gonna put on muscle and burn fat a little bit easier than others.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of tough too. You have some people that might work for years and never get to the point where somebody does after 2 months in the gym.
Right. Even just in general weight loss. Yeah.
I think you got to do what's right for you, what gives you confidence, what makes you feel good. Maybe a 6-pack is what you need to feel good, but for most people, it's probably not.
Yeah.
So.
In the words of Lego Batman, I've got a 9-pack. So.
Right.
It's one of my kids' favorite quotes from
it is a good one.
Oh man. I'm going to go back a little bit, step away from retro, but talk a little bit. I really liked what you said about getting to know people in the partnerships. And you highlighted it kind of high level with Dan and with James. But what are some of the key things that you think in having them as business partners? And you, like I said, you highlighted a couple things, but what are some of the key things about you guys as a team that you think others who are trying to start a business or doing their own business that are important to look for when having a business? Yeah,
I think you need to, well, like I said, we work well together. That's a big thing. I think if you have different strengths as well, if you guys are all the same, then maybe you're not going to be able to cover all the bases, right? I think you always have to have a willingness to support each other, be willing to listen. It might not be exactly what you're thinking, but if everybody has a chance to share their ideas, and then you can kind of have a discussion, and usually the right idea ends up being chosen in the end anyways, right? But one thing that I really like about them is if they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. It would drive me nuts to have a partner or partners that said, oh yeah, I'll take care of these 5 things. And then a week later, you're like, did you do any of those 5 things? Right. And so being able to feel like you have a true partnership is very important. If you felt like I have to do all the work on my own and these other 2 partners are benefiting off of it, then I don't think that would work very well.
Yeah.
So,
that's good advice. I like the everybody does their part and knows their part. And I like how you said you don't necessarily have to have the same perspectives or skill sets. In fact, you almost want the opposite.
Sure.
In skill sets. And I think, well, maybe that transcends into relationships in general. I can't tell you the number of people I know, their marriages where they're like polar opposites, but it just works.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because of the strengths that you bring to the table. And I think business partnerships are no different, but you kind of have a common goal as well, right? Obviously you wouldn't go in on buying a gym together if you guys didn't have some collective passion for that.
Right.
I'm also interested in hearing maybe I'm throwing this out here, so if nothing comes to mind, you just tell me nothing comes to mind. But I'm interested in hearing some cool like stories. If you're comfortable enough in sharing of like athletes that you've worked with and seen, their progress over time. And the reason why I'm interested in that is not only getting to know you as a coach, but helping people to kind of see like, sometimes, because I know someone there's a professional runner that I know that he was okay as a freshman in high school. But then Jared Ward, and he got better and better progressively, ran for BYU, and then was in top 10 in the Rio Olympics for the marathon.
Yeah.
What are some cool stories that you have of kids you've been able to coach or athletes you've been able to work with like that?
I think one of the first ones I can think of is named Brian Pearson. So he's actually in medical school right now. But I coached him it's been close to 10 years ago now. But he was mainly an 800-meter runner. He ran cross country and everything, but he just was very injury prone, which was so weird. His dad is a doctor, He would get his bone density scans and everything. They would come back great, but he kept getting stress fractures and things like that. Even when we'd have him back down on his workload, on his mileage and everything, still getting injured all the way through his junior year. And then I remember he came to me before track his senior year, 1 season left, and he showed me his goals. And I was just kind of like, oh my gosh. Like, they were astronomical. And I was just like, okay. And he had just gotten a stress fracture in cross country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, how are we going to do that? He's like, well, I'm going to get in the pool. I can't do a lot of running right now. I'm going to do some biking. And then, you're going to get me where I need to be on the track. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll do that. And he did. He did. He set school records. He won states. And it was one of those things where he was able to finally stay healthy with the help of a doctor. I'll mention his name, Stephen Workman. Got to give him a little plug. But kept him healthy throughout the whole thing. And then he finally just started having some fun. He had felt this pressure. He knew he was a good runner. He knew he had some talent, kept getting injured. Things kept getting in the way.
Gets in your head more too.
He had some fun. He would go into a race looking forward. Hey, I get to race this guy. He's ran a 155 before. I get to race against him. Not, oh man, this guy's fast. I don't know if I can beat him, And so it was so fun to see that. He went on to run at SU and everything. But that was a fun time. I mean, I look at athletes like your daughter Eliza, in middle school. I knew she had a little bit of talent. I had no idea she'd turn into what she is right now, being top 5 in state and stuff like that. So it's fun to see when athletes really have those goals, that drive, and they're having fun. Like you said, Eliza, she's one that I never have to worry about, feeling the pressure or anything like that. She's usually laughing,
goofing
off, right? Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. They're not worried or anything like that. She's probably a little bit nervous. Yeah. But she runs a race, and that's it. She moves on with life, and that's how it should be, right? I've also had the privilege to coach some powerlifters the last few years, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just a different outlet, since I've kind of been into it, it's kind of been fun to coach a few like that as well. I've got a few girls right now that are absolutely killing it. Working towards some world record kind of stuff.
Really?
So it's nice because in powerlifting, they keep all sorts of records. They have state records, national records, and world records. Wow. And so for each age group and weight class and things like that. So it's fun that there's a lot of opportunities out there. It's not like, okay, it's one world record for the marathon. It's a lot of opportunities where you can go and say, well, I'm going to be the world record holder for the 18 and 19-year-old females.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So are those that you're coaching in the powerlifting, have they already hit some state records?
They've hit some state records, and they can kind of see what they need to do to get to those national or world records, and probably still a little ways off, but definitely within the realm of possibility, which makes it kind of fun when you can kind of see, okay, if I do this, this, and this, I'll have a shot. It's never going to be a guarantee, but I'll have a shot. Yeah. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. And I like that perspective too, because I mentioned my friend Jared Ward that ran in the Rio Olympics, and I believe, and Jared, forgive me if I'm saying this wrong if he's listening, I think it was 6th place in the Rio Olympics in the marathon. And I remember people commenting that he was like the happiest 6th place finisher anybody has ever known. Sure. And that's the perspective that people really need to take, kids need to take, is go out there and enjoy it. I was just watching some of the Winter Olympics, and some of these guys were hitting the ski big air jumps. Right. And the culture kind of in skiing, kind of ski bum, snowboard, right, is that they're just out there having fun, and they get to do this competition with these guys. It's not just about beating them. And it's so cool to watch these guys compete because, and gals compete, because when one of them does well, even though I was just watching big air skiing with the men, and it was first, second, and third, all three of them were locked in. They were just trading places based on whose jump next was best. Right. And the American got into the gold position, And then I think it was a Norwegian came and was doing the jump and just like locked in the gold position. And the other two guys were just so ecstatic for him.
And you see a lot of that with runners as well.
Yeah.
And even on the powerlifting scene, you mentioned bodybuilding. I don't do any bodybuilding, but it's almost the opposite. And that's what drives people from certain sports, I think, is it's so cutthroat and competitive and not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of misery. So,
yeah. Well, and when kids do get in their head, even my daughter, I always forget, because she's always so just kind of chill, happy-go-lucky, have fun. But there'll be these random times where she seems all stressed out and a little short, and I'm like, where's this coming from? And then she'll leave for school, and I'm like, oh, yeah, she has a meet tonight or tomorrow or whatever. I'm like, okay.
Right.
But then she just kind of goes, hangs out with her friends, loosens up. She's still in the zone, but it's a balance of kind of having fun and enjoying yourself, but still working hard. And that's hard. For me, I'm a nervous wreck. Whenever I have a race, like a marathon or something, like especially when you're on the bus, driving to the start line, if it's one of those, I'm like sick to my stomach. I can't even believe it. With that race I did at the indoor meet, they actually put me in the first heat with all these fast college kids or former college kids. And then there was a few faster, older guys. And at first I'm like, I don't know about this. This is going to be really embarrassing. I just thought I was going to be dead last, trailing way behind. But I kind of took that attitude that what you were saying is, I get to compete with these guys. That is so cool. And I ended up doing way better than I thought. I just went to just try, because I was a sprinter and a hurdler in high school. So I really have only tried competing in a mile twice, once last year and once this year. And that's when I was thinking to myself, I wonder what I could do. And that's why I've set this goal for myself. And anyways, I don't know. You just don't know.
It's going to be a tough goal. I'm looking forward to following that.
Yeah, I'm going to harass you here and there on that. Yeah. So I am in my 40s, and I am definitely feeling the aches and pains way more. I do not recover like I used to.
It's a true thing. Yeah, for sure.
Well, anyways, I'm going to blab at you all day long. So before we close, kind of tell me, like, what are things that you want people to know for Retro Fitness? What are things you want them to know about the gym, or things that they can get excited about?
Sure.
As they come and try to find a gym to work out at.
No, I'm glad you asked. So I think our main focus with everything that we've talked about, the improvements, the different amenities and things like that we have to offer, we're trying to create a community. People can lift weights anywhere they want, but will they enjoy coming to the gym? Will they find some friends there? Are they going to get a smile and a greeting from the workers there? We want people to feel good there. It should be an uplifting thing, not something that's just, a job or something that they have to do, right? As far as things we have to look forward to, so we are finishing up with some renovations, but we're bringing a couple cool things in the next month, actually. So we're kind of having a little bit of a mini med spa.
Oh, really?
So we're going to bring in some massage, some cryo slimming, and some things called exopods. So it combines red light therapy with some infrared heat, some lymphatic draining, different things like that can be really healthy. That, as well as we're looking to partner with somebody to provide some GLP-1s, some weight loss type peptides and things like that, some recovery peptides. So things that people could use in conjunction to the gym. It definitely should never be the sole thing that you're using.
Right.
But if somebody comes to us and they say, "Hey, I want to lose 80 pounds," that's going to be tough to do just at the gym. You might need a little help doing that. And so we want to have some opportunities for everybody. And so, like I said, creating a community and really using the space to its fullest potential. We want to be using every room in that place several hours a day and just maximizing what we have. So.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell people where they can find you online, where your physical address is.
Yeah. So we're located at 929 South Main. We're over kind of in that IFA parking lot, and then just retrofitness.com. We do have follow us on Instagram. That's probably our best location there. Like I said, our social media manager is fantastic. She posts things every day. It's nice because you have our class schedule that'll get posted every day. So if you're ever looking for a Pilates class or a yoga class to go to, that'll get sent around the night before, the morning of. So I would say Instagram's probably the best.
Is it just like Retro Fitness Cedar or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. I think we've got close to 16,000 followers now. So yeah. So it's getting up there.
Hey,
yeah,
those videos are
awesome.
paying off.
Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's been good.
Cool. Well, Greg Harris, the co-owner of Retro Fitness here in Cedar City, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.